Welcome to ProjectME, the podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Carter, the founder of ProjectME, multimillionaire entrepreneur, former TV newscaster, money-making expert, female empowerment speaker, and self-proclaimed office supply addict. My mission is to take the mystery out of making big money. Every week on ProjectME, the podcast, I'll share success tips, strategies, and stories from other entrepreneurs, experts, and millionaires, showing you exactly how you can achieve your most exceptional life. Now let's get to it. Exciting announcement for all of my listeners. I've officially opened my exclusive group, the ProjectME Passive Income Posse, to the public. This group is by application only, so we can keep the group high vibe and spend our time, energy, and expertise only helping those of you who truly want massive success and impact. You get live weekly trainings from me, special guest coaches, and direct access to me and my business partner for all of your questions. To learn more and apply, go to projectmewithtiffany.com, click on Work With Me, and select ProjectME Posse. And of course, any questions, feel free to DM me at ProjectME with Tiffany. Welcome to the podcast and posse, ProjectME with Tiffany Carter. I'm your host, Tiffany, and today we are going to get you more leads and clients without you having to chase people down. Aren't you sick of doing that? You know, DMing people, feeling like you're bothering people, feeling gross and sleazy. You guys, you do not have to do that. And you don't need thousands and thousands of followers on any social media platform to learn what we are teaching you today. I brought on Scott Aaron. He is a LinkedIn marketing expert. He's also an award-winning network marketer, which all of you network marketers who listen know how hard that is to achieve. He's a best-selling author and a podcast host. But today we're going to get into it. You are going to walk away after listening to this episode with being able to generate more clients and leads with ease. We don't like doing things hard over here. What's up?
Tiffany, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here.
I am so thrilled to have you on because we've not covered this topic on the show yet. You know, so many people focus on Instagram, Facebook, networking events, and they leave out, it's almost like the sad, stepchild of LinkedIn. Why do you think LinkedIn gets left out so often?
It's a great question because the best line I hear is, I have a profile, but. And that's where it typically stops, because I think every single one of us in 2006, 2007 signed up for LinkedIn because we maybe got an invite from a friend. And that's basically where it ended. And basically everyone thinks that LinkedIn is used for what it was used for 10 years ago, which is getting recruited, being a recruiter, and navigating that sort of networking aspect of social media. But when Microsoft bought them out 3.5 years ago, it changed the game.
Oh, that's a fun fact I didn't know. So Microsoft owns LinkedIn.
Yes. So a company that is the fourth company in the world to hit the $1 trillion valuation mark is backing this platform.
And the number one, basically, that's like the founder of the search engine, right?
They specialize in SEO. They specialize not only in that aspect, but cybersecurity. So all of these Instagram and Facebook hacking you see going on, we had 6 blackouts on Facebook and Instagram this year. And you're not going to see that on LinkedIn just because of who is backing it and who's protecting it.
That's a good point. I never have a problem with LinkedIn. Well, before we get into the nitty gritty, you guys who are driving, who you are, at work with one AirPod in, I know who you are. I would do the same thing. I used to eat lunch in my car, by the way, and just anything to get away from that corporate environment. But if you guys can, I would like you to take notes. You can always re-listen, but there's going to be some step-by-steps here, and I don't want you to miss anything. But first, let's get into who are you? You're the guy that has 3 first names, Scott Robert Aaron. So you're that guy.
I am that guy. I am that guy. And so is every male in my family is that guy until you obviously the women too. When you get married, you lose the first name, last name. So my sister is no longer a three first named person. So she only has two now, which it is what it is. I'm not going to take my fiance's last name either. So that's not going to be a problem.
You have a very non-Jewish last name.
Well, when my great-grandfather came over from Eastern Europe, it was Aroniski, so it was very Jewish. And then when he wanted to obviously get a job and he became a butcher, which is part of my story, he actually shortened the last name to Aaron so he would just blend right in and have a better opportunity to open a business.
He needed to sound more like Gentile waspy, which was a thing.
Yes,
right? Which
exactly.
Now everyone wants to be diverse, but back in the day, you wanted to be the waspy person, right?
You just wanted to blend in. That's all you wanted to do.
So tell me, how did you get here today? What's your story? What's your deal? We want to know.
So the long and the short, and this is, I always, whenever I'm on a podcast or if I'm ever giving a keynote, I always talk about, I'm not just going to come here and talk about LinkedIn because that would just bore the shit out of people. Because you have to understand the reason behind something and why I'm actually so passionate about it. So I always talk about impactful moments that people have in their lives. And I call these, as Robin Sharma sometimes talk about, these brain tattoos. And it's these impactful moments that literally are tattooed to your mind and you can never forget them no matter how hard you try. So Tiffany, if I was to ask you, as an example, do you remember when you first heard about 9/11? Would you be able to recall that moment?
Yes, because I was a newscaster and I was sitting at the news desk when that happened for CBS.
So no matter where you were, no matter how old you were at that time, everyone can go back into that database of that moment and recall it. And in your life, you are going to experience certain things like this. And these are the things that propel you forward. So my brain tattoo moment is what led me here today, because if what happened to me never happened, nothing in my life would have ever followed it. So my moment was, I was 18 going on 19. And as I previously stated, my great-grandfather, I'm a fourth generation entrepreneur. My great-grandfather came over from Eastern Europe. He was a butcher in South Philadelphia. My grandfather followed suit. He actually helped at the butcher shop, but then went on to get a degree in pharmacy, and he was a pharmacist for 50 years. And my father obviously followed suit. He became a pharmacist, actually had a pharmacy called Scott's Pharmacy after I was born, and then owned his own industrial type businesses. But when I was going into college, my father had sold off the shares in his company and started working for someone else in the physical rehabilitation industry, which was very strange for my family because we've always been entrepreneurs. I mean, my mom had some side jobs and just kind of staying busy, this, that, or the other. But my father was the one that was always working and having businesses. And now he was working for someone else. Things from the outside looking in looked great, looked normal. Things were fine. And then that came to a screeching halt over the summer between my freshman and sophomore year of college. And my father, we were having a barbecue. A big thing about my family is my parents are no longer married, but when they were, my mom was literally just so stringent on having family dinners as often as we could. Literally growing up Monday through Thursday, family dinners, weekends, you can do whatever you want, but those 4 days, non-negotiable. And, when I went away to college and came back, obviously we wanted as much family time as possible. So my father said, listen, we need to have a little conversation and there's something I need to tell you guys. He goes, I'm leaving the company that I was working for, and I'm actually going to be purchasing a health club in downtown Philadelphia with the help of your two grandfathers. He goes, it's a failing gym. And the reason why I'm leaving this business is because there are some legal issues going on and the federal government is involved. And basically from that point, he said, I had to make some changes and I'm going to be operating this gym and running it. And at the same time, I will be cooperating with the federal government. And he goes, there is a chance.
Oh my God.
And he goes, there is a chance I may get house arrest.
What?
But so as things went on, my father literally all day, all night, spending time at this gym. And about 6 months later, we were obviously my dad pleaded guilty to cooperate to lessen whatever charges were going to come about. And the lawsuit was for $9.5 million of insurance fraud. So this wasn't a small case. And the way that and for my male listeners or my athletic listeners, the way that my father's team of lawyers described it to me was like the NBA draft. And if anyone is familiar with that, the number one pick in the draft, or in any draft for that matter, is the most valuable. In this case, was the one that caused the most harm. My father was the number 3 pick in the draft, which means he was very involved, whether he knew it or not. So we were in court. And it's so like when I describe it, like I literally can close my eyes and remember, because it was like that dark, dingy, musty type courtroom that you hear about and see on TV. And I knew things weren't going to go good because I turned to the right where the opposing side to my father was, and I had my own flesh and blood sitting over there. Cousins, aunts, uncles. So family that I did not realize were involved got really hurt by what happened.
Oh my God.
So as my father, obviously was proceeding with this, the judge had, asked my father if he would like to address the courtroom, and he stood up and he obviously began to apologize and broke down and cried and then was begging for his freedom. And when all was said and done, he was sentenced to 24 to 36 months in federal prison. So me being 18, my sister being 15, this was a lot to take on, because what I unknowingly didn't know, that gym that he purchased was him preparing me to be an entrepreneur to run our family business. So as we drove my father to federal prison a few months later, he turned around to me and he said, "You are now the man of the house." So I left the University of Pittsburgh. I transferred to a local community college and then to Temple down in Philadelphia. And at 18 and a half, almost 19, I started running my family's business. And, I was a hippie, so I was really big into the band Fish. So
my roommate in college was, but he had really good weed.
Yeah. I mean, there was a time where things were really good on that end for me as well. But when I had hair, I had a big Jufro. I don't have any hair anymore.
Dying.
And I used to just literally just drive around the country singing music. So I joke with people, the patchwork pants came off, the hemp went away, the Birkenstocks got thrown away. And I had to step into this adult role of running a business that was generating $250,000 a year as a child. I was a teenager. But, there's times in your life where you're dealt hands and you can either hold them or fold them. And I didn't fold that hand no matter how shitty it looked. So I progressed forward. I fell in love with health and wellness. I fell in love with the culture, the people, the industry itself. I got my certification in sports nutrition, personal training, group fitness instruction, and I got fully embedded. And I grew the gym from about 300 members to close to 1,100 by the time my father came back 2.5 years later. One gym turned to 2 gyms in 2002. And then in 2003, we were approached by another family to buy both gyms for $1 million. And we took the deal. So at 24 years old, I became a millionaire. And I continue to help run the existing clubs with my father to obviously bridge the gap between this new family and my family and how they should do it. But eventually we left, and my father got the bug to open up another gym outside the city, actually close to the Rocky Steps, for anyone that's familiar with Philadelphia. So we opened this last gym, and because my mother and father did not have any credit, everything was then put into my name when they were financing this gym. And I didn't know this, but when I turned around 2.5 years later, after this gym opened close to 2007, I was $1.5 million in liability debt. So literally within 3 years, I went from millionaire to actually being in the hole over $1 million. But again, I was dealt a hand and I didn't let it stop me. Now, inevitably, I've been married twice. my first marriage ended just because of all of the financial disarray that was going on. And there's no blame there. Things just happen because things happen on purpose and for a reason. But I pushed harder with my personal training. I was working about 80 to 85 hours a week, which means I had no life. I was making good money. Don't get me wrong. I was making really good money personal training, but I was still just getting by. Now, I got remarried a second time, had a beautiful little boy. He just turned 7. His name is Taylor. And inevitably, we realized that we were better raising him separately than together, but things are very good. We have a very, very mature, responsible relationship for him. And obviously, as I said, I met the love of my life online dating, and we are engaged to be married at a date to be named soon. We're not sure when. We're figuring out those pieces. But again, in a time span between 2007 to 2014, I was married and divorced twice. I had dealt with all of the financial issues. But more importantly, one of the most transcending aspects of my story was in 2013, a year before my second marriage ended. And that's when I found network marketing. Now, I know there's a lot of people that are on here that have their skepticisms and whatever hangups they have about network marketing. Listen, there's a lot of people that do not make it in network marketing. They just don't. They don't have what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And then there is a handful of people that do make it, and I did. I was a very successful network marketer, but I'll tell you this. The greatest lesson I learned from network marketing is that it's a personal development journey with a compensation plan attached to it. I was getting paid to personally develop myself into the best human being possible. And it's funny because I didn't listen to podcasts. Now I'm on one and I host one. I didn't read books and I've written 2 since, but I remember starting to pick up all these personal development books. And I tell people that prior to 2013, the last book I read, to give you an idea of how long it had been, was the last Harry Potter, or the first Harry Potter. That's how long it was since I started reading books again. But when I started to really dive into myself, once you have that personal development bug in you, there is no stopping it. So I grew a very successful network marketing business, matched my personal training income in 2 years with the company that I partnered with. But there were a couple things still holding me back. Number one, I went to go sell off a property that I owned downtown Philadelphia. And I had about $35,000 worth of equity in this house. I had bought it about 11 years prior. So I was sitting at the table at closing, waiting to get a check for $35,000 slid my direction.
Not how it works.
I had a check slid my direction, but it was for $837.
I'm only laughing because I know these things.
So I turned to my real estate broker and I said, Brian, what's this? And he goes, well, I guess you didn't know this, but the gym was using your house as collateral for the gym's equipment.
Oh my God. I thought you were going to say you didn't factor in like closing costs and the realtor percentage. Oh, I wasn't expecting you to say this. Really?
So basically, I paid off the amount of money that was left on the gym's equipment. So, again, some things I knew about, some things I didn't know about. Now, the straw that broke the camel's back was about 3 months later. And this is towards the middle to the end of 2015. And I was going through some paperwork and I really wanted to fully understand financially what the hell was going on, because my money mindset was like so spot on now. I really understood the idea of wealth and multiple streams of income. And I was truly the only one that was going to hold myself back from either succeeding or not. And I pulled out some paperwork, specifically the lease of my gym. And I realized that I was the personal guarantor of the lease of my gym. And for my listeners that don't know what that means, for my listeners that don't understand what that means, number one, what that means is that if anything happened to this gym, if the gym goes under, I was fully financially responsible for any dollar that was owed left on that gym, which at this time, when I found out, was $450,000.
Oh, my Lord, have mercy.
So I called my dad into my office and I said, listen, Pop, I said, if we have any opportunity to retain a relationship, father and son, we are going to have to part ways. I need to take full control. He didn't argue. There was no fight. There was no yelling or screaming. He packed his gym bag, he left, and he never came back. So I was sitting in my lawyer's office about a week later, and I was talking to him, and I said, listen, I need to figure something out. The building is falling apart. My landlords don't have any money to fix the place, and my membership is going down. I'm losing $2,000 a month. I have this flourishing network marketing business, and I had just launched my network marketing LinkedIn training program where I was helping network marketers grow their business the way that I was on LinkedIn, which I will get into. And what I can tell you is that I was sitting there and he said, listen, you have two options. He said, option A, you continue going down this road and you struggle. You may work it out, you may not. Or option B is you file for personal bankruptcy. And when I heard that word bankruptcy, it didn't scare me because I didn't hear your life is over. I heard your life is about to begin.
Interesting.
Because I knew this was the only way where I can get the fresh start that I deserved. So on July 1st of 2016, I filed my paperwork for personal bankruptcy. July 31st of 2016, I closed the doors to the gym. I wrote a handwritten letter to the members, to my staff, to my instructors, thanking them for the 12 amazing years that I was able to be a part of that gym and that community. I closed the doors, I shut the lights, I locked the doors, and I never came back. So I always tell people on August 1st of 2016, that's when I've been reborn. And since then, I've been on this rocket ship of expansion, of growth, and of helping as many people as I can with not only the LinkedIn training program that I've created, but giving people hope and belief that there are better ways, that human connection still does exist, because that's what I realized my superpower was. It wasn't being a good LinkedIn trainer. It wasn't being a great network marketer. It was being good at creating trust, rapport, and relationship with other people, because when you can create that between two people, that is a bond that can never be broken.
I totally agree. It's exactly, what I teach when I'm talking about like sales and converting, people from Instagram or Facebook or using video. A lot of people think that, just give me that winning formula, Tiffany. I mean, there are strategic things that you should do. There are things you shouldn't do, which I know you'll get into on LinkedIn. But the one thing that trumps all is, like you said, that build that like, no trust factor. And you can only do that by actually being really you, not pretending to be someone else, being yourself and showing up and being of service. So all the people, I know you guys are dying. I have a lot of network marketers who also listen to the show because I teach all things money and I'm all about multiple streams of income. And I'm an advocate for a network marketing stream, as long as you partner with the right company and the right people surrounding you and you understand what you're getting into. So all my network marketers who are listening are like, wait a second, he gets leads from LinkedIn for network marketing. So they're already tripping out about that. So what's the deal with LinkedIn? I mean, why did you think of LinkedIn as a great source to build your network marketing business versus all the other ways that people do it?
Well, I was using Facebook and Instagram. Between you and me, it's never really worked. I've probably enrolled 2 or 3 people off of Instagram. I tell people that Instagram reminds me of it's all sports bras and yoga pants. That's all I see on there. That's literally, it seems like it's just an e-commerce store. Everyone's just selling something, whether it's themselves or their cleavage or whatever it is. I feel like they're just selling something. Facebook was working really well in the beginning. My major building period was between 2013 and the latter stages of 2015. And I mean, I was crushing it on Facebook. I mean, you could literally, I could put a picture out there, before and after transformation. I would have 6 or 7 people signed up, no problem. And then Facebook started to catch on. At the same time, I was feeling a little bit internally depressed, and I didn't really know why. And then I started to realize that the source of my internal depression was because I was being removed. It's what I was being taught by my upline. I was being removed from one of my, not so much my love languages, but my, something that I live by, a core foundation, which is
connection part.
Which is connection.
Yeah.
And all I was doing was posting and praying, scrolling and trolling, liking, commenting, all this stuff. And it wasn't leading me to, because you have to understand, I spent 65,000 hours working one-on-one, face-to-face with people in my personal training practice over 18 years. So you talk about the 10-year, 10,000 hour habit. I 6x that. So in me, more than half my life, I'm 22 years into this industry now. I just turned 40. This is all I know how to do, is connect with people. So I started looking at what was going on with social media, and the leads were diminishing from Facebook. And I found people doing more attraction marketing, which basically just keeps you busy from actually doing the real work of building your business. I don't care what anyone says. If you're just focusing on attraction marketing, you're literally waiting at a bus stop that has no bus on that route anymore. You're going to be sitting on that bench for the rest of your life. And I needed to get into action. The best feeling for a network marketer is being in action, having calls, speaking to people. So I jumped on the LinkedIn. I had a profile, but I had no clue how to use it. So I made some changes. I started sending some cold messages out to my mirror image. And here's the first key point. One of my first mentors, Susan Sly, incredible human being, she said to me, Scott, when you're building your business, you have to wake up every day, look in the mirror, and ask yourself, how am I going to recruit me today? And something clicked. And I realized that there's 2 sides of me. There's me as a person, and then there's me as a professional. So what about the professional side of me? What about that 18-year career as a sports nutritionist, gym owner, and personal trainer? Because I know some professionals just like me are on LinkedIn, and I haven't reached out to them. So I started searching, connecting, and messaging for my mirror image, other trainers, other sports nutritionists, other gym owners. People started responding to my messages. I started booking calls, 5 calls a week, 10 calls a week, 20 calls a week, 40 calls a week. And guess what happened? The law of numbers were now in my favor, and I started closing people. Because what I realized, the more people you talk to, the more yeses you're going to get. And it came from a great book that I read called Go for No by Andrea Waltz and Richard Fenton. Yes is the destination, but no is how you get there. So I started reverse engineering everything I'd been taught, and I started becoming a salmon in a world of fish. I started turning around. I was going upstream where no one else was. So I was fishing in this blue ocean instead of chasing everyone else fishing in a Red Sea.
Now,
so
people are tripping right now because I'll get hundreds of DMs if I don't ask a question that I know they're dying to know. Because you're like, you cold messaged people, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to want to know, well, what was that strategy? Like, what did you message people? Were you like, hey, I'm Scott and I was a gym owner too. Like, what did you write these people that seem to work and connect?
Well, so the backstory I'll give you kind of like the 3-part series to creating a successful message, because it's not hard. So when I started getting these results, I reached out to one of my close friends in network marketing, and I reached out. I said, Joey, I said, you got to get on LinkedIn. And I said, I want you to send a message similar to this to other Windows salespeople like you were. I want you to change your profile around and message me back in a week and let me know. And he did. He said, call me. So I called him and I said, what's up? And he goes, dude, whatever you're doing works. He goes, I have 14 calls booked this week. So he goes, I don't know if you should put some structure around this or do videos, but you got something here. So long story short, I went on my first business coach, Jeffrey Combs, amazing mindset coach. He had me on a live call and I was going over the basics of LinkedIn and what I knew. And after I got off that call, I had 9 messages on Facebook of people that wanted to hire me. Hire me for what? I didn't know because I didn't have a business, but I had to create on demand. And that was the birth of my training. Now, in regards to your question, the simplest way to message people, number 1, is state their name. Hey, Tiffany, great to connect with you. Then the second part of the message is explaining to them simply why you're reaching out without mentioning an opportunity or trying to sell them. I see that you're also a podcast host, as am I, and I would love to hear more about it and how we can support each other. Then you finish with a CTA. And for those that don't know what that is a call to action. Questions lead to answers. Would you happen to have any time this or next week for a discovery call to learn more about how we can support one another? Their name, reason for reaching out, call to action. You're not selling, you're connecting, and you will have more leads than you know what to do with.
Really? Because that's so, I mean, I'm not a great target, but that's so vague to me. And maybe because I also get so many cold messages. If I read that, I'd be like, well, what is it you want to collaborate with me on?
Well, you have to think about it from 2 sides. Side A is this. So I think anyone that's listening to this has gotten some of those drunkalog messages from people where it's 19 paragraphs. They want you to watch this video, check this link out. Our products are great. In network marketing or whatever business you're in, you're looking to connect, not sell. That's the idea. And for me, I look to take it offline as quickly as possible. So I try to vet out who's open and who's not. So if someone is not going to respond back to that message, because I'm all about, I want to learn about you. I want to hear how we can support each other, whatever it is. You state their name, reason for reaching out, anytime for a call. You have to ASK to GET. You have to ask to get. So I ask every single person, anytime for a call, anytime for a call, anytime for a call. Because at the end of the day, one of 3 things happen. They say yes, they say no, they say nothing.
Or they ghost you. Yeah.
So
what?
So what? So my good friend Zach Slobin, he was on my podcast a couple of weeks ago. His whole tagline is, so what, now what? So what, now what? And that's the thing. If you want to achieve more, you have to do more. So again, don't come at people trying to sell them.
Or even with the energy of that, you guys. Like, even if your words don't come across that way, I'm a big believer in this. Even if your words don't come across that way, even the energy of it, that can turn someone off. That's not even going to work. Now, let's say someone writes back, right? And they're not writing back with, like, the ideal write back would be, you know what? Great idea. I'd love to have a call. How's Tuesday at 1, right? That's
beautiful.
Awesome. Perfect. Yeah. Right. And that happens. I'm sure there's a percentage, right? You get that. That's great. And then you get a lot of people going, well, what is it that you do?
What?
Right? Like, well, what is it that you do? Because I would be someone, if I got that and I didn't feel like there was a selling energy behind it, I might write back and go, well, help me understand what it is you feel we can collaborate on. Basically, what I'm wanting to know is the WIFM, right? What's in it for me?
So so what I do is I try to keep control of the conversation as often as I can. So you're going to get these people that are called assholes. They just ask. And I don't have time for assholes. I really want open-minded people. So if someone was to say to me, just like you did,
am I an asshole?
No, not at all. People would say, like, what is it you want to talk about? So I always deflect. There's a few things that I would love to discuss with you, and it's better over a Zoom or a phone call. Could you carve out 15 minutes? Because here's the thing. The more of a personal touch that you can bring to a conversation, the more connection there's going to be. Because you can't hear someone's passion in a message. You can't see if how excited they are. It's just words written on a screen. That's why you want to deflect and get it offline as quickly as you can.
Yeah, like I can see someone going, there's several ideas that I have that I I know you'll think are great, but it's better, it's easier to explain them live, something like that.
And they'll say, you know what, Tiffany, that makes sense.
It does make sense.
How can you compartmentalize what you do in you can't unless you hear, because here's the thing, it's not about you, it's about what you can do for the other person. That's what it comes down to. And again, if you go into this and again, you guys can take that little message thing that I just went over and you can start blasting messages out.
Yeah, you guys should, like today.
But I'm telling you this, if you go into this with the sole purpose of trying to sell every person, you're going to fall flat on your face. Now, if you go into it really seeking to build relationship and seeing where the conversation goes, you're never going to know what happens. But I'm telling you, it is an absolutely amazingly harmonious thing when you get someone on the phone that's the right fit and you just jam back and forth and you don't sell, you connect, because you know what? Then they're going to ask you, what do you do? Because you've built that trust, that wall of resistance starts to come down, and literally now they're putty in your hands.
Now let me go to the next step. I do a lot of role plays on the show, but let's go to the next step. You have, let's just say it's me. All right. So you got, which that would have probably worked on me, by the way, you guys. And for people who are annoying, don't try it on me. Thank you. So let's say Tuesday at 1, right? So now I'm on a call. I have no idea. I really don't know much about you other than what's on your LinkedIn profile. And maybe I Googled you, right? And I just know you have some ideas that, sound like it could be really, good for me. And I'm interested in hearing more. So I would probably come on the energy of, and I'm assuming you do all video calls, right? Because it builds better rapport.
Actually, it's funny you say that. People ask me that. So, I mean, people can't see me, but I'm a very animated person. I talk with my hands a lot. So on average, I walk about 7 to 9 miles a day because I pace around.
Are you a pacer? Oh my God, I'm totally a pacer too.
So because I'm all about I need when
it's
I'm
the energy, right?
When I'm sitting in a chair, it's like literally putting me in handcuffs because I need the flow of energy. So if it's within my calling area, Canada, United States, I will push to a phone call because I need to move around. But if it's international, UK, Australia, New Zealand, I'm glad to hop on because my hands are enough. But I literally, if you ask my fiance, literally I'm going in and out of every single room on sales calls. So
this is so refreshing to so many people listening because so many people, whether you're in network marketing, you're a coach, whatever kind of business you have, think I have to do video calls because video builds more, trust and rapport because you're seeing the person's face. But if that's not where you shine, then you shouldn't be doing video calls, right?
It's your voice. I mean, think about when you listen to music, right? Music moves you, and it's the tone of the singer. It's the hook of the song, and your voice can do that same thing. People can hear your inflection, your tone, things that people can feel that in their hearts through a phone call. Trust me.
If you give good phone, and clearly we know Scott gives good phone, and Mama over here, I've made millions over the phone. I give good phone. If you don't give good phone, then you need to hit me up and book a 90-minute intensive session, and I will help coach you to getting good phone and what to say. All right. So now we're on the call. We're on a phone call, actual phone calls for all my millennials out there, a real phone, right?
It's a phone. You can actually talk through it.
Right. You can talk on it. So we're on the phone, which I would have already loved because I look crazy half the time. So I wouldn't have had to have done makeup or anything. So now we're on the phone, and I would probably first start out by, you'd be all, I'm sure, very animated and hey, and all the things. And I would want to get right to it. I would say, so, what is it? What are these ideas of yours?
I would say, Tiffany, that's great. I see that you've had a podcast for a number of years. How did you get into it, and where do you see yourself going with it in the next 2 to 5 years?
Interesting. So you would want to then, that's a form of deflection. So want to get me back to talking about myself.
for two reasons. Number one, people love talking about themselves. And number two, people love being listened to. That is the first form of building trust with someone that you do not know, getting that person to talk about themselves, because that's when they're most comfortable. So when someone is now comfortable with you, they're going to be open to receive you when it's your time to share your story. So you always make it about the other person first.
How long are these calls going on for? I mean,
yeah, depending upon, obviously this is what I do. So when I do a call, they're anywhere between, I would say 7 to 15 minutes because I get right to it. But in the beginning when I sucked, and just to let you know, David Wood talks about it all the time. He goes, every master was once a disaster.
Oh yeah. It takes practice.
You're going to suck these first few calls. But what I can tell you is that when you can build out the structure, I don't like rushing. So I always prepare for 30 minutes. Always. I always prepare for 30 minutes. But in the very beginning, I would say on average 20 to 30 minutes until you get very skilled at this, and you'll be able to start cutting down as you go. But that really depends on the other person, because you might have someone verbally vomiting everything all over you, and you gotta be a very good listener. You gotta talk less and listen more, and you sit and you let them talk until it's your turn. So I would say on average 20 to 30 minutes.
And at what point, basically we're role playing, which I freaking love. Okay, that sounds really sexual, but you know what I mean. So I've just finished telling you, some of my history, podcasting, yada, yada, yada. Now, maybe you ask me another follow-up question about me. And now, there's kind of that point in the conversation where once you guys practice enough, you'll kind of know. It's like, I always say it's the art of the sell. So you'll know at what point it's appropriate for you to share some stuff about what you have to offer, right? So what is that transition that you go into at when the time is right?
So after you go through your story and it comes to a close, I would say, Tiffany, thank you so much for sharing your story with me. Would you have any interest in learning how we can support each other and a little bit more about what I do? So I switched the conversation to all yes or no questions, not saying to someone, well, Tiffany, what is it? Yes or no? I'm just so clear with my questioning that the answer you're going to hear most often is either going to be yes or no. And, you may say, you know what? No, not really interested. Don't like people, this, that, or the other. And the call's over. So you haven't wasted any time. Or you might say, you know what, Scott? Yeah, I would love to hear about what you're doing. It seems like we have some similar backgrounds. Tell me a little bit about yourself. And this is where, and if you're a good note taker, which I am, if you were to see my desk, I have note cards all over my desk.
I'm actually taking notes right now.
So what I tell people is when they ask, and this is why I like doing phone calls, is because when I do sit in my seat and I ask someone, Tiffany, tell me a little bit about yourself, blah, 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 I actually grab a note card and I will actually bullet point 3 or 4 highlights from that person's story that I can drag into mine to create more relatability. So if you're talking to the mirror image of yourself, if you're talking to another nurse practitioner or real estate professional, chances are there's going to be something in their story that's relatable to yours. So then you just go through the structure of mirroring and matching. You're going to mirror their story with your own. So I start sharing my story, and I go through the whole process. And again, if this is network marketing based and, you're literally prospecting in a genuine way, the mirror image of yourself, you can basically say, Tiffany, I can relate a lot to what you're saying. I've also been in the personal training industry for so many years. And what frustrated me, which it sounds like it's frustrating you too, is God forbid something happens to us, we are cut off from our income. Because a friend of mine said to me one day, hey, Scott, what's your plan B? My plan B? And they said, yeah, God forbid you get sick, injured, the gym closes, whatever it is, what are you going to do for income? And at the same time, Tiffany, in all honesty, wasn't feeling myself. Like I mentioned, just like you mentioned, we get paid by the hour, which means we're working a lot and we're sleeping little. So my energy was low, wasn't feeling good. So with how I was feeling, both personally and professionally, it led me to say yes to an opportunity with XYZ company. Have you ever heard of them?
Oh my God, this is so good, you guys. Okay.
So that's my second.
Okay. And then you would say the name of whatever company, even if it's your own company. We can plug in anything here.
Yeah, you could.
I know what company. Buy your shaker that you keep drinking out of.
Right. Insert your company here. Okay. And you basically say, have you ever heard of them? So this is basically another yes or no question. And they're going to say, yes, I have, or no, not really, or yes, but, sort of, maybe, or they'll say, yes, that's one of those blah, 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 shake, oils, companies, the hair care, whatever they're saying. And the most common ones are the first two. They're either going to say no or yes, but I've just heard of them. So then you say, well, let me tell you a little bit about XYZ company. And you can say XYZ company is a wellness-based or hair care-based or skincare-based company that focuses on blah, blah, blah. Tell them what they focus on. What solution are they solving a problem for? And, they solve a problem for this, that, or the other. I personally said yes because of how I was feeling, as I previously mentioned, low energy, blah, blah, blah. And since saying yes, this is how I feel now, the after. And then you can say, and this is what I love asking these kind of questions because it really keeps people on their toes. I would say, Tiffany, what's your favorite movie of all time?
Shawshank Redemption.
Oh God, I love that movie. And every time every time I watch that movie and whenever they're walking on the beach at the end, I'm like, what the fuck happens now? Like what? There's no second, there's no Shawshank Redemption 2. Like, anyway, that's my whole. So anyway, I would say, awesome. Have you ever recommended anyone to see that movie that you love so much, knowing they've never seen it before?
Absolutely.
So there's no difference in what I did with XYZ company, Tiffany, whether it's a book, a movie, a restaurant, a vacation spot, a nutrition program. When you love something, the natural thing to do is to share it with others. And that's exactly what I did. Friends, family, coworkers, clients, social media, people just like you. And in doing that over X amount of months or years, not only have I created another stream of residual income, but I am now teaching others to do the same. But that's my story. So it's always their story, your story, and now your passion. My passion is actually teaching and mentoring other people just like you about the importance of having another egg in your basket that's residual based. Whether that income can be used to pay for your bills, pay for some vacations, credit card debt, student loan debt, whatever have you. And no matter whether you want to crawl, walk, jog, run, or sprint with this, there's a path to go down for every single one. But here was my aha moment. Their story, your passion, your aha moment. It was a typical Monday, and I was in between clients. And I got an email from XYZ company, and I opened it up, and it said, "Congratulations, Scott, you've just earned X amount of dollars." Now, Tiffany, this had nothing to do with the amount of money that was mentioned in this email, but it had everything to do with that was the first time, and at that point, my decade-and-a-half career as a wellness professional, that I ever earned $1 where I was not training a client.
The first time you've ever made money where you weren't trading your time, your body, your energy for it.
For dollars. And
it's a beautiful fucking thing, you guys.
And then I basically would say, would you like to learn more? Now, that question, basically, they're either running for the door because it sounds too good to be true, or they're crawling through the phone because they want to learn more. So every time you go through their story, your story, my passion, my aha moment, do you want to learn more? And you can get to that. Do you want to learn more? You got a 50-50 shot of setting up a follow-up call with where the fortune is. I don't care what anyone says in network marketing, in coaching, in entrepreneurship. If you expect to close people on the first call, you are sadly mistaken. You got to build that trust so they come back and buy later. So the fortune on LinkedIn, my friends, is in the follow-up.
Okay, well, that is really important for you guys to hear that in terms of managing your own expectations. Every business is different. My business doesn't operate that way. But, if you're doing affiliate sales or network marketing, truly real estate as well, car sales, most people aren't closing, right then and there. That's actually like kind of a lazy thinking. Like, yeah, of course you want to close right there. But if you're so quick to go to the close, now we're going back to that icky sales energy that people can feel. And that shit doesn't work.
They can smell it from a mile away. That they're just, and you don't close people when they don't want to be closed. You keep the door of opportunity open. You keep it comfortable. You keep it relaxed. You take the pressure off. You meet them where they are. Because if someone is feeling like they're being pushed into a corner where they're having to make a decision, you're going to lose them. So you always want to make it relaxed where you're drawing people into you instead of repelling them away from you.
So if I said back to the role play, like, wow, this is a different way to look at it. Like, I'm someone who's not really, a network marketing person, but, I appreciate your story, and it's a different way, to look at it, might be something I'd consider. Even if I said that, you still wouldn't try to close me on that call.
No, I never tried to. I would say, you know what? It's always better. And this is a line that I use that my fiance always kind of like gives me a little nudge. I'm going to say, listen, I'm no Picasso, but I can paint a really good picture. But it's really best if you look at the same information that I did nearly X amount of years ago that allowed me to come to that decision myself, that this was the right fit for me. So here's my suggestion. After we get off the phone, we can book a follow-up call for a couple days from now. I can send you some information about the company, the products, the services, the science, if there is any, so you can wrap your arms around it like I did, so you can come to your own decision of what you feel is best. We can hop back on the phone in a couple days. I can answer any and all questions that you have. And if you're ready to move forward, I can tell you what the next step would be. How does that sound?
Yeah, and that would sound, even someone like me who's been in sales my entire life, and I can tend to be like skeptical, as we all know. I would, like, what's the harm in you sending an email, right? Like, and if I was like not into it from the email, I could always like cancel a call with you.
I'm so happy you just said that, because people say, well, what happens next? Well, when you book the follow-up call, because the fortune's in the follow-up, your goal is to book as many follow-up calls as possible. Because when you book a follow-up call and you send the right information to the right person, you have a 25% chance of closing every single person, because they're going to get back on the phone. They're going to say, Scott, yes. Scott, no, it's not for me, but I have maybe some introductions I can do where you can use them as a referral source. They ghost you or blow you off, or they cancel or reschedule because they're too busy building a shed for their kids in the backyard. That is it. 1 out of every 4, 25% of the time, you will be closing.
Yeah, I would agree with his numbers just based on what I teach in a sales structure. But also just know, like, you walk away and you're all amped up and you start doing this tonight. Just know, like he said earlier, this takes time to learn this and finesse this. Like, you're gonna stumble and it's gonna be awkward and weird. Just know that, like, it's not, you might not have like, oh, Tiffany and Scott, I didn't get 25% of the follow-up,
Well, Robin Sharma says it best. He goes, it's uncomfortable in the beginning, it's messy in the middle, and it's gorgeous at the end. So if you can go through that process and have no expectations and you can just go for it, you will win. And the only way you fail is if you quit. And again, I do have free resources on my website. So if people go to scottaaron.net, you can do a free infographic where you can print out to start optimizing it. My best-selling book is available on Amazon. It's called The LinkedIn Book for Network Marketing. I wanted to write a handbook. Basically, after every chapter, there's key takeaways of what you should know. And it's just one of those things. I wanted to provide as many free or available resources where if people did want to work with me, they could, but they didn't have to, because I just wanted to help as many people as possible with as many resources as possible.
So we'll make sure, you guys, if you're driving or something, they're in the show notes, and also you can just search on Amazon under like Scott Aaron. I'm sure the book would come up, Scott Aaron LinkedIn or something like that.
Yeah.
Before we get off, there's a couple, so to speak, technical questions I want to make sure I ask you so I don't get bombarded by my people. So like you said early on, right? Most people have LinkedIn because, they had to when they were looking for a job or whatever. What do you recommend they do with their profile? Do you let's say they already are in a corporate job right now.
Yeah.
Do you recommend they keep that on there? Do you recommend they start a different LinkedIn profile that's more geared to whatever their side hustle is?
Well, the two no-nos I have, number one, you never have, if you're in network marketing and you're listening to this, you never have network marketing mentioned anywhere on your profile. That is a red flag on LinkedIn. Number two, remember what I said earlier. You're looking for your mirror image. So if you're searching and connecting for people within your corporate profession, you need to have that corporate profession on there, because people will look at your profile, they will see the connection, and you're more likely get people to accept the connections that you send because of what's on there. Now, with that being said, as you can understand, and as I explained on this episode, a lot of what happens on LinkedIn is on the back end. It's on the behind the scenes, behind the curtain, where you're doing the connecting, you're doing the messaging, and you're getting on the phone. So you may be listening to this and you're like, Scott, I'm in a network marketing business. I have a side hustle, but my company watches what I do on LinkedIn. They have access to my page. Well, again, remember, everything happens behind closed doors. And as long as they're not screening your phone calls, you're fine. If someone is worried about their company who manages their page, you can start a new profile, use your first and middle name, so you can use a different email address and start from scratch where it's geared towards that. But even with your side hustle, Tiffany, for you, basically you could have podcast host, money mindset coach, success mentor, all those things that describe what you do, but is not putting yourself out there. You're any Joe Schmo that's doing network marketing or entrepreneurship. You're branding yourself. Again, remember, you have to think about, what is the other person that's going to my profile going to think and feel after reading it? So having a professional picture, having non-networky sales type things on your profile is key. And as long as you keep it real, as long as you keep it genuine and authentic, absolutely keep your corporate position there, and think of very authentic and foundational ways to describe what you do without mentioning a network marketing company, business, or product.
Now, as far as content goes, right? Because on Instagram, which is, something that, and I know that's not your jam, but that's something that is responsible for literally 85% of my sales. Mm-hmm. So on Instagram, right, you need to do one post per day, period. That has to happen. On LinkedIn, in terms of posting content, is there some best practices you have?
100%. And with you, I want people to understand, I am on Facebook and Instagram every day. I post once a day. I add to my story on Instagram every single day. I do Facebook Lives 3 to 4 days a week. Now, right now, as you guys are listening to this, and Gary Vaynerchuk talked about this about a week or two ago, right now, LinkedIn is having a Facebook 2012 moment, which means the attention is underpriced and the organic is higher on this platform, LinkedIn, than any other social media platform out there. So right now, content creation is number one on LinkedIn. So you always want to put out one piece of content a day.
7 days a week?
7 days a week, one piece of content a day. That can be a post, that can be a video, 30 to 60 seconds. That can be an article, a discussion in a group. Do not share shit. Make it your own. And don't sell, connect, lead with value, leave people better.
Does it have to be fresh content, or can you post can you repurpose from Instagram?
Absolutely. That's what I do. So if anyone follows me on all social media platforms, I have a theme of the day. So whatever the theme of my day is, it's spread across all my platforms. So I talked about the same thing on Facebook as I did on Instagram, as I did on LinkedIn. But if you do this properly, you're going to build 3 different types of networks, because there's 3 main reasons why LinkedIn is so great. Number 1, age demographic, 35 to 55. Number 2, the average income of people on the platform, $100,000 a year or more. And number 3 is the size of the organic network that you can grow, 30,000. I grew my network from 500 connections to over almost 27,000 in 3 years.
My God.
That's
amazing.
Organic. But what you have to understand is Facebook and Instagram are owned by the same company. So the average age is 18 to 29 with a yearly income of $30,000 a year or less. And you're only allowed 5,000 friends on Facebook. Now, if you are in a business that requires people for growth, 5,000 people will not cut it. LinkedIn gives you 6 times more connections than any other platform, and you are missing out, and the time is now.
Are you all about having people pay for like the pro level account?
Everything that I teach, everything that I've done has been on the free version. I've never paid for Premium, Sales Navigator, or Recruiter ever, and never will.
You guys have to get this book. So say the name of the book and where they can get it again.
It's called The LinkedIn Book for Network Marketing, and you can get it on Amazon. It's $14.99 paperback, and it's on Kindle. It's $3.99. If you do have a Kindle Unlimited account, it is absolutely free.
Oh my God. You guys, this is insane not to get it. And don't be deterred by like the network marketing part if that's not how you make your money.
Network.
Yeah, just fill in the
cover
blank.
The word network.
Because everything he said is, Tiff Carter approved. Like I can vouch for that entire model. That would work whether you do something similar to me, whether you own a brick and mortar business, whether you have a jewelry company or an online store, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So go check that out. I appreciate like your story and giving us that like practical, this is how you do it. Like, you know what's cool about you? Most people do not share their secret and how they do the thing that converts because they're afraid that everyone else will do it and then it won't work anymore.
But why? Why? Why is that? Like, why are so people like? Again, I was talking to someone the other day, and they're like, "Oh, if you come speak, we don't want you to sell." I'm like, "I don't have to sell. I don't." I said, "I provide value where it's going to intrigue someone so much where they're going to want to work with me because of the value that I've already provided them." So, and that's a great statement, Tiffany. Why don't people give people value? Like, I have nothing to hide. I'll
from what I said, because people are afraid if you tell them your step-by-step way that now there's going to be tens of thousands of people who do it. And now your way that's worked for you will no longer work because everyone's doing it.
Well, you're living in a fear and a lack mentality, which means you're never going to succeed.
I totally agree. That's the hole I saw in the business coaching market, and that's why I was determined to fill it. Because it's frustrating.
There's billions of people out there. So what if 10,000 people? That means there's millions others that, that need the accountability. There are so many people out there that, yes, they can hear the actionable steps to do, but they see more value in paying someone or investing in someone that can show them step by step, holding their hand, how to get the job done. So there is something for everyone, and people can get whatever they want. They just have to look for it.
And you guys, if you're like, you know what, a book's not going to cut it, I really want more of this, that's his LinkedIn accelerator. So they can go to your website to get that, right? What's your website again?
ScottAaron.net. So there's a virtual coaching program, and then I have a one-on-one elite level coaching as well.
Okay, perfect. You know what? This was so refreshing. Thank you for your honesty, your energy, and for teaching myself and all the people a new way that they can actually easily get great clients and leads without chasing people down and feeling gross doing it. This was so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Well, I just appreciate you so much and just grateful for the opportunity and just, giving value to your audience, because people really do deserve to succeed and create all the wealth that they want. And I don't want to be that person that's like, oh, this is mine, I'm not going to share it. So I'm an open book. I want to see people flourish because it's just the law of reciprocation. You give more, you're going to get more. And that's how I live.
Love it. You guys really liked this episode and you had some good takeaways. Take a screenshot right now, share it on social media, tag me at ProjectME with Tiffany, and also tag Scott Aaron. If for whatever reason you don't remember Scott Aaron, tag me. I'll make sure I share it in my stories and re-tag him. This helps us learn what you guys loved, what you guys didn't. Plus, share the wealth and knowledge. Share this episode, especially if you're on network marketing or have a sales team. Share this with all your people so that they can learn this, and then the abundance just spreads. Thanks so much for your time. I hope you have an amazing day.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you.
Bye. Bye, guys. If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.